In the dead of night, American B-2 bombers struck deep inside Iran, targeting nuclear sites buried beneath layers of concrete and mountain rock. Satellite images show scorched craters and collapsed structures. Destroyed or not, one problem remains. Around 400 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium are unaccounted for. The Iranians secretly relocated these months ago in anticipation of an attack. If further enriched to 90%, which is a relatively simple process, the stockpile could produce enough fissile core for 9 nuclear weapons. And as long as that stockpile remains missing, as long as Iran retains even the slightest ability to build a bomb, Netanyahu will see the war as unfinished. With full nuclear removal off the table, Israel may now pursue the next best option: dismantling the apparatus that protects it. Early in the war, Israeli warplanes struck well beyond nuclear installations. They hit places like Khuzestan, Mahabad, and Tabriz, not just for military targets, but because these are Iran's fault lines, regions where national cohesion and unity are weakest, and where unrest can spread fastest. Thus, while the ceasefire holds on paper, Israel could now be aiming for not just destruction, but disruption, fracture the periphery, and the center might not hold. Former Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi has gone on a media blitz, arguing that the Islamic Republic is collapsing and positioning himself as the interim leader of a new Iran. But the narrative seems manufactured. His visibility peaked during the war, yet his engagement numbers remained oddly consistent even during nationwide internet shutdowns. For instance, he received nearly the same number of likes and shares when Iranians were offline. That shouldn't be possible. These patterns suggest his following isn't rooted inside Iran, but instead amplified by bot activity. Supporting this, numerous Arabic language accounts on X began promoting him in near identical terms, flooding the platform with content designed to go viral. Meanwhile, mainstream media coverage echoed this push, primarily through right-leaning outlets, many of which are owned by media conglomerates. So clearly, there is an organized effort to create the false impression of a grassroots movement in Iran. I use ground news to connect the dots because it allows me to check out local and regional sources. I truly believe that is the best way to understand this tricky region. I can't stress enough how important this is, which is why I asked Ground News to sponsor this video. I mainly browse the blind spot page, where they share lots of interesting stories that other news outlets often miss due to biased reporting. Go to ground.news/Caspian or download the mobile app and enter promo code Caspian to save 40% off the Vantage plan. Also, by subscribing, you're directly supporting my channel. Thank you, Ground News. The link is below. PJAK, a Kurdish militant group entrenched in Iran's northwest, issued a statement urging ethnic Kurds to take up arms against the government. The language was careful, emphasizing freedom and self-determination, but the subtext was clear. Iran is vulnerable, and its outer provinces know it. PJAK operates in Iran's Kurdistan and Kermanshah provinces, where ethnic Kurds make up the majority. Both regions have been heavily targeted by Israeli airstrikes, but these weren't nuclear facilities or missile bases. They were local command posts, intelligence hubs, and barracks. Assets such as these pose no direct threat to Israel, but they are vital for Tehran's control over its outer regions. Without them, the state's hold on restive populations would weaken. But the Kurds aren't the only ethnic minority in Iran, far from it. Persians account for just 55 to 60% of the population. The rest is a patchwork of Arabs, Balochis, Lurs, Turkmens, Azerbaijanis, and others. Most of these groups live along the country's outer rim, where state control has always been at its weakest. For context, Iran's rugged mountainous terrain makes it difficult to fully assimilate its diverse cultures and peoples. The geographic peaks create isolated pockets where communities cling to their distinct languages, traditions, and identities. The clustering of ethnic groups in distinct regions persistently fuels calls for autonomy and even secessionism. While Iran once granted autonomy to these groups, the centralization of power in Tehran during the early 20th century gradually eroded those political freedoms. Over time, this centralization drove Iran's transformation into an increasingly authoritarian state. And so, Tehran has long struggled with repeated calls for autonomy and independence from its ethnic minorities. During the 1979 Islamic Revolution, for example, Kurds, Turkmens, and Arabs tried to break away from Iran, while Azerbaijanis pushed for more self-rule. Even though these movements were crushed, they revealed just how fragile Iran's ethnic unity really is. Israel is playing into that vulnerability. In addition to the Kermanshah and Kurdistan provinces, Israeli jets have targeted Khuzestan, which is predominantly ethnic Arab. Missiles landed near Avaz, Mashahar, and key roads, hammering military staging points and security compounds. These areas have seen repeated protests over discrimination, detentions, and water shortages. The Israeli strikes could now further inflame those tensions. More Israeli attacks have been recorded in the East and West Azerbaijan provinces, which are home to much of Iran's ethnic Azerbaijani population. As the country's largest ethnic minority, Azerbaijanis have played a key role in Iran's civil service, both historically and in the present. Nearly all of Iran's revolutions in the 20th century started in the Azerbaijani provinces before spreading to Tehran. And since the start of the war, Israel has repeatedly concentrated firepower on military assets in both provinces. Airstrikes near the Tabriz airport suggest the attacks are not just military, but political. 3 distinct regions, 3 distinct fault lines, and 1 clear pattern. Just to be clear, this video is an analysis of Israel's strategy, not an endorsement of it. We don't advocate for separatism or the breakup of Iran. This is simply a reading of how Israel sees the board, and in its playbook, internal fractures aren't accidents, they're openings. Israel has invested so much in dismantling Iran's capabilities that it can't back down now, not even with the ceasefire in effect. While its jets hammered the outer rim, a quieter, more targeted campaign was underway, one aimed at the internal architecture of power, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The IRGC is not a typical military body, it's a parallel state. Formed after the 1979 revolution, it reports not to the government, but directly to the supreme leader. It manages businesses, controls media narratives, deploys intelligence, and dictates foreign policy. From inside the country, it enforces obedience, suppresses dissent, and oversees Iran's most sensitive programs, including its ballistic missiles and nuclear development. Meanwhile, from the outside, it projects power through proxy forces. And it does so with a force numbering close to 200,000 plus over 600,000 in reserve. In effect, the IRGC combines Iran's defense, intelligence, and political power into a single institution, and, in doing so, blurs the line between military power and state authority. In short, it is the nerve center of the state, and likely the one holding the missing uranium stockpile. So, if the uranium cannot be found and destroyed, then dismantling the structure that protects and could weaponize it becomes the next best option, which is precisely why the Israelis have made the IRGC the primary target. In just 2 weeks, Israel eliminated a string of senior IRGC commanders. Some were struck at known facilities. Others were taken out in precise hits on convoys, offices, and safe houses. These weren't random attacks, they were surgical decapitations. Because IRGC officers aren't just the military brass, they are the government's inner circle and the elite of Iranian society. Remove them and the architecture of power begins to sway. That's precisely what happened in Iraq when the Baathists were purged after Saddam's fall. And while many view the Iraqi outcome as a warning, the Israelis may see it as a blueprint. Collapse isn't a risk, it's part of the plan. Meanwhile, on the streets, Iranians feel trapped between two crumbling forces, one external, the other internal. Many have long resented the government for crushing protests and silencing civil society. Decades of economic mismanagement, censorship, and ruthless ideology have alienated entire generations. Most Iranians now view reform as a myth. Every attempt has been either hijacked or shut down. But herein lies the deeper paradox. As much as Iranians resent their government, they fear its downfall even more. They've seen the aftermath in Iraq, Syria, Libya, and Afghanistan. Each was promised liberty, but fell into chaos, civil war, or foreign occupation. Not surprisingly, Iranians don't trust the United States or Israel. Not out of loyalty to their government, but because they know these foreign interventions often end in political vacuums, violence, and lasting instability. Power means nothing if you're not the one moving the pieces, and Iranians know too well what it means to lose control of their own fate. As a result, many are now rallying around the flag. What might have been anger at the government is now redirected toward a common enemy. The threat goes deeper than politics. It has become existential. So, ironically, by bombing Iran, Israel may have inadvertently helped strengthen Tehran's federal authority. In attacking the state, it has legitimized it. What once divided Iranians now unites them in nationalist resolve. For Iranians, the enemy is no longer within, but above. I've been your host Shirvan from CaspianReport. If you approve of what we do, please leave a comment, hit the like button, and mayhaps share the video. In any case, thank you for your time, and Sawal.